Hi there, that's right, it's Nick Dutch. I'm back yet again, and today I want to talk to you about tarot and experimental occultism. Obviously, tarot is my life. I am a professional tarot reader, and experimental occultism is basically just what I do because, hey presto, it's absolutely fascinating. Now, as I'm sure you're aware from my previous video, and of course some of my earlier videos, there are two main definitions associated with the word magic. Okay, you got Crowley's first interpretation, which is magic is the art and science of changing conformity with the will, which lots of people misrepresent as being the definition for all things done with meditation, all the states of consciousness practice, religious exercises, circle casting, and all that kind of like wonderful weird stuff. But then Aleister Crowley also used the word unempirical, and precisely why was that? There's obviously a very good reason for that, and we've got to think carefully about it. If you were to study Magic in Theory and Practice by Aleister Crowley, what you would see is that he's actually using the word magic in its first instance not to talk about things done with all the states of consciousness, ritual, spell casting, and all the rest of that. He's using that just as an attitude towards life, okay? Trying to teach people to think in a way which is almost or more scientific, and trying to use a bit of creativity when trying to work out what's right, what's wrong, and also talking about improvement of skill. So that's semantically different. That's dramatically semantically different from something, let's say, like doing a meditation for the purposes of contacting a apparent spiritual entity, okay? Now, let's put that aside for a moment, but obviously bear it in mind, and think more about tarot and tarot itself and what tarot can actually be used for. You've obviously got your 78 cards, so precisely what do they mean? Well, they're all very subtly different semantically, and you personally have to learn to define the meanings. Now, you can spend your time reading lots of wonderful books on tarot, just shoving your nose right in there and trying to find out as much as you can, and that's great, but all you'll be doing is picking up some interpretations of what tarot is about and some interpretations of the meanings of the cards. And with the passage of time, you can either get yourself more confused, or indeed you could potentially make life slightly easier for yourself through accumulating many more ideas that you can just basically add to the mix with the passage of time. But you don't want to get yourself basically too bogged down with that. That's essentially where you start building up your reservoir of knowledge. The real way, I suppose, of ascertaining the hidden or occult meanings of the cards is to use hidden or occult methods to try and find them out. Once you've done your initial research, your initial going through various different books, you then got to actually get your mind involved, alright, doing the unempirical research. So what you're looking out for is experiences, you're looking out for states of mind, you're looking out for moods or anything that appears to your visual imagination when you're investigating the actual cards themselves. Now, think about it. Okay, you may only have, let's say, 78 different cards. But if you were to have a combination of two cards drawn completely at random, how many possible combinations would you have? Well, I've got my electronic calculator here. Let's say 78, we're going to multiply that by 78, let's say. Because it will depend upon the positioning of the cards and the interpretations that you place upon the positioning just of two different cards. Well, the answer I've got is 6,084 different possible, subtly different semantic combinations with just two separate tarot cards. So let's say, well, I happen to have my Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot just at hand. Just a moment, please. So let's say you went into your tarot pack and you selected two cards completely at random. Let's say you chose the Devil card and the Prince of Swords, just out of pure coincidence. Those are the ones that have come out. And you wanted to try and investigate them. How would you go about it? Alright, number one, go through lots of books and try and find out what different people have said about them. Number two, you can go to various religious groups and see what their interpretation is, whether they're Wiccan groups, chaos magic groups, whatever, or try and talk to someone who's already got a way of explaining tarot to you. Or alternatively, you could do things the right way. Now, the right way, the way I understand it, is to look closely at the symbols. Go into an altered state of consciousness in any way which you can, which you feel most comfortable with, okay? And try and ascertain what the meanings are. Remember that figure I've given you as 6,084. That's only taking into account that all the cards are the same way up. If you got one card that's upside down, maybe that changes the meaning even more. So essentially you'd have even more possibilities than just basically with a two-card reading. Think about it. Right, what I would do is basically I'd start going into meditation. I would start getting a bit trance-like. I would try and use something of a religious nature, because if you're going to adjust your your perceptions. Religious ideas are absolutely brilliant for that, because they shift your focus of awareness and concentration away from paying off the tax bill, paying off the council tax, looking after yourself, trying to get more money coming in, trying to work out what your next YouTube video is going to be. Think about what you're going to say if you were to bump into your ex yet again, and so on and so forth. Okay, it takes your mind away from that and starts making you think about something else. Essentially, it appears to, at least from my point of view, dredge something up from the subconscious, or make something in your subconscious mind a little more receptive to something else which you are placing in the field of perception. So make yourself feel open. It's an emotion of sorts, and you can learn to try and generate that. And when you're in that state of mind, concentrate on the images of the cards, take into account everything else you've learned about the meanings of colors, about the meanings of shapes, about the meanings of, in this particular case, animals, and what they could actually mean, and what the other various symbols could be involved. Could essentially be trying to tell you. It's almost like there's a form of language there, some of which might not even have been intended by the artist or by the designer, but it's something that will resonate with you because you're building up your understanding. It's an unempirical form of understanding, okay? And it deals with thoughts, feelings, emotions, moods, and all the rest of that. Now, with a card which is much more emotive, such as the Devil card, maybe you'll be tempted to be a little afraid or be a little concerned. But essentially why? All you've got there is an image. There's no blood and guts, there's nothing to threaten you. Alright, it's just an image. So you need to have, before you go into the state, remove from yourself any form of superstition which could possibly be getting in the way. You may even, when you're in that heightened sort of religious state of mind, try and treat the card almost as if it is a separate entity, and in your own mind's eye, talk to it. Remember, this is unempirical investigation. So, what about with a card which is more bland? Essentially the same thing. There's still things in there which your mind can latch onto. There's colours. There's lots of yellow in this card. Yellow, some people say, is a solar colour. Some people say it's mercurial. Maybe it's a combination between the two. When you're in your meditation, work out, what does Mercury mean? What does solar energy mean, so to speak? Not in terms of solar panels and all that kind of fun green energy stuff, but in terms of mysticism. Okay, the sun is the centre of the solar system. It gives us energy, it gives us warmth, it allows us to have enough lights to be able to see by, to be able to work, to be able to hunt, to be able to fight. And what does Mercury do? Well, it's to do with healing, communication, so maybe something which provides stability as well as warmth, as well as healing, nourishing, provides you with the ability to communicate. Maybe it's talking about rays of light in its own right. But that's only part of the whole message there, okay? Also think, when you're in your meditation, think about the pose of the various different beings you've got here. You've got the Prince of Swords. It looks like he's about to strike someone with his sword. Is this someone who is trying to attack? Is this someone who is trying to defend? Is the sword actually symbolic of a whip, and is he trying to be motivational? Ask yourself these questions when you're in that state of mind. Allow the answers to come through. Take as long as you want. Okay, trying to study tarot in this way does not happen overnight. And I don't believe that you can just do a short correspondence course that will basically just help you out to try and work out precisely the accurate meanings of the cards, because there aren't any accurate meanings of the cards. Everything is to do with your impression of where things come from. Sure, a bit of earlier study would probably help you out, but on the other hand, there's much more to this than meets the eye. And every single time you approach a spread, whether it's with one card, two cards, the Celtic Cross, whether it's something like my traditional 8-card relationship reading, or whether it's something more social dynamic or political dynamic, okay, you will get so many different possible combinations coming through to you. And it's not necessarily going to be through the book meanings of the cards. You've got to bear that in mind as well. Alright? If anyone says that, a good tarot reader must know precisely what the tradition says that the Queen of Wands reversed actually means, they're lying. Okay? You got, over 6,000 different combinations with just a 2-card spread. If one of the cards is reversed, that adds another factor, bringing it up to, let's just work it out, shall we? 78 multiplied by 78, let's say, okay? 6,084. let's say one of the cards is reversed, we'll have to multiply that by a factor of 2. Multiply that by 2. Okay. Let's say the other card is potentially reversed as well. Multiply that by 2 as well. 24,336 possible semantic combinations just using 2 cards. So essentially, if you were to talk about a grand spread with, let's say, 15 different cards in it, just like I think it's the Golden Dawn spread, how many meanings could you have with that? Okay, you do the maths. Get yourself an electronic calculator. This one cost me 99p at a local 99p shop. Okay, and work it out. The possible combinations there are intense, and it's not as simple as anything you might pick up just in a straightforward little New Age book that's out there somewhere for you. Okay. Alright, if you want to give yourself a course in tarot, you're giving yourself a course in your own mind, and basically what happens there and how that relates to what you're seeing. There's other ways of using tarot as well. For those of you who are much more into the more sort of like a spiritualist or ceremonial magic aspect, it might even be worthwhile seeing the individual cards as being spirits in their own right. Learn how to experience them, invoke them, conjure them, try and speak to them in your dreams. Alright? And see whether you can build a relationship with all of your 78 different friends here, rather than, let's say, just one particular higher power concept or one particular angel concept. Build up a more complex theology for yourself. Right? It's all in the mind, it's all unempirical. But once in a while, strange stuff happens, and it happens to people who have learned how to enter into these altered states of consciousness, which can happen once in a while, how to essentially get prayerful and meditative. Why would Aleister Crowley have used the phrase inflame thyself with prayer? Why would he have used the word prayer? Why? Because it's an important mind-altering tool which you personally can learn to use for your benefits, to try and get an understanding of one of the most complex art forms on the face of the planet.